everyone, I'm Shelby with SISTERLOCKS.
And I'm Lexi with the Traditional Locks.
And we are Two Sisters Locked.
Stores are like Chelsea change. Now the lights spread the dimes. Time to spread this, your dreams dance at all. Godly thrones that be dancing, so lots gather ransom, don't.
So, today we're going to be telling you a little bit about the difference between our two locks. Now, before we start though,
we need you guys to do a few things. You already know the drill. Take a second before we go any further. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It is so easy. It's literally that red button that says subscribe. Click it so you can subscribe and get notifications when we have new videos coming out. We need you to like the video, give us a thumbs up, and comment. We love to talk with you guys. We love to engage in conversation with everyone. Ask us questions about things that maybe you want explained a little better, or give us some suggestions for other videos that you would like to see from us, other content. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll get started.
So, as I said, today we're going to be talking a little bit about the difference between our two locks. As we say at the beginning of every video, I have sister locks, she has traditional locks. Now, what exactly is the difference? Obviously, mine are significantly smaller, so we would have recently just shown a video that's saying I have about 552 locks and she has about 103. So you can see there's a huge difference in size. I would say the average for sister locks, I've heard different numbers. I've heard some people say the average is like 400 to 450, but I've seen people with as many as like 1,000 sister locks. So they can be really, really tiny, and then also they change the size depending on the thickness of your hair. The thicker your hair is, they tend to do a little bit bigger. If you have really thin hair, they're going to be a little bit smaller. So, I mean, you'll have a little bit more. Sorry, not size, but you'll have a little bit more. So that's probably the most obvious difference. But there's obviously a whole lot of others. So if you want to start with installment.
So, installment process. When you do traditional locks, you can install it different ways. Mine were installed with comb coils. So she literally took like the skinny comb and like sectioned it off and just like did like the twirls coils. You can also start locks, traditional locks, with 2-strand twists. I'm gonna just leave them in. And you can also do it with braids, where you braid the hair down, you know, in single braids. You can start it that way. Some people do instant locking, where they actually form the lock using the crochet hook. You know, there are different things, but the most common ones, at least now, are to get them done with comb coils, 2-strand twist, or even sometimes braids.
And then for sister locks, it's totally different. With sister locks, basically what they do, they'll start by taking a small section of your hair and combing up the end to make like a little ball. And then basically they'll like almost like crochet your hair. It's like either they say a 3-point or 4-point pattern, and they'll literally put your hair through your hair. So let's say I have like this thing here, or maybe this might be better. I don't know. Let's say this would have an open
demonstration.
Let's say this is my hair. They would, and this is the knot at the end. They'd pull up your hair and put it through this way. Then pull up your hair and put it through this way, then this way, then this way. They say like north, south, east, west. So basically you're literally pulling your hair
like
through
a weave,
and making
like weaving hair. And
literally making like knots almost all throughout your hair. And so like mine are starting to lock now, I feel like. So you won't be able to see the pattern as well, but like in the past you would kind of be able to like see the pattern almost. But yeah, there you go. So that's how you install sister locks, and it takes a really long time. So we can talk about that next.
My hair, when I got mine done, including the wash, her, you know, sectioning my parts, her doing and having it being blow dried, I mean, like sitting under the dry and everything, my hair took about 4 hours to install. Yeah, it was about 3.5 to 4 hours to do all of that. Also with traditional locks, something that you don't necessarily do with sister locks, you can have different parted styles. So you can do a typical like square grid. Mine are actually diamond parts, which you can't really see very well, but at some point I'll show you guys when my hair is freshly done what the diamond parts look like. But literally it's parted into like diamond shapes. And you can also do like triangle shapes. Like they're different parting styles. So she did a diamond parting style for me, and it took about 3.5 hours.
Yeah, and for me it took much more. My electrician was new, so I think it probably took a little bit longer because of that. But it was over 50 hours. I didn't count the exact numbers, to be honest, but it was definitely over 50 hours it took to install. I think it took a really long time. And then in terms of like retightenings, the average is probably like 3 to 4 hours. It shouldn't take much more than 4 hours. I've had some experiences where it took a lot longer, but I wouldn't say that that's common. It should only take about 3 to 4 hours to do each time.
And also, I didn't say, with traditional locks, my loctician does palm rolling. Every time I go for a retwist, the actual palm rolling part takes like an hour, maybe an hour and a half if other stuff's going on in the salon, but not really much longer than an hour to do.
Cool.
Now, pricing. When I got my locks installed, and it kind of varies, but this was pretty average. So they charge for small, so they'll charge you depending on how big you want your locks to be, because of course the smaller it is, the more time it's going to take. So I think what they did, I think they were charging $125 for small locks, and then they added, I had length past my shoulders, so they added an extra $50, and so I think the total was $175 to install them. And then every time I go to get a retwist, it's about $65 to $75. Depending, if you're just doing a basic retwist, typically it's gonna run you about $50 to like $80. I pay like $65, $75 for mine. And then like if you want to do something like 2-strand twist or other stuff, they'll add on to that price, but that's probably about your average.
So for SISTERLOCKS, the installment is based on length usually, and then a little bit extra for density. So mine ended up being about $950 for the install. Now, the one thing I also, so they do it by length, but they say you should have them price the length based on how much they're going to SISTERLOCK. Because say I have 10 inches of hair, but they only lock 5 inches of it, you just paid for the same price someone with shorter hair would have paid also, right? So even though it's by length, be very careful about like keeping an eye on like how long your loctician is actually locking the hair to make sure that you're paying for the accurate length. So I paid about $950. I paid for like 8 inches of hair. Yeah. So for retightening, it's usually an average about like $150 for the first 3 hours, and then sometimes like extra like $35 for each hour, or I've heard like extra $20 per half hour, and it goes up. So by then it'll be more about like how much your hair has grown out, like how long it's been since your last retightening, and then also how many locks you have is going to determine how much each retightening session costs. But I would say you're probably going to average around $150 to $200 if you're going like every 6-7 weeks. Per retightening session.
In terms of maintaining them, so I get mine palm rolled, but with traditional locks, you can also do what they call interlocking, which is when like they actually like take a hair, and if this is the root of the hair, like they'll like kind of almost similar to like that process that does for SISTERLOCKS, but they put it like back the end, like back in to the lock and do like a weaving like that. And so you can maintain them through palm rolling, which is how I do it. You can do interlocking, and there are a couple other things that I'm not very familiar with. You don't want them to thin, and so you don't want to over tighten them. So they always suggest like 4 to 6 weeks. There are some people who go much longer than that. Like I know some influencers who go like 3-4 months at a time without getting their hair done. Now that doesn't mean they're not washing their hair. They're still washing their hair and keeping it clean. But in terms of actually like retwisting them, they don't go much longer than that because they don't want it to thin out. So traditional locks, it varies depending on the person and what their preferred, how they prefer their hair to look. Some people like the fuller look and stuff like that.
Yeah, so for SISTERLOCKS, it's pretty standard. I mean, some people might go a little longer, but you're not going to want it to go too long, because like even now, right now I'm between locticians, and so I haven't gotten it retightened in probably 7 weeks now. And so like my hair like it starts to mat at the root, and it's going to be harder. You have to like separate them as you go to SISTERLOCKS. So you don't want to go too long with SISTERLOCKS. It's just like way too difficult to get them redone. But the maintenance there is just the same way that they did to start them. You just do that at the root, the whole weaving technique. And I already explained the pricing and the time for that. And then the other thing with SISTERLOCKS is that you put no products in your hair. So you shouldn't be putting any kind of like moisturizer, conditioner, oils, anything, because it'll cause, when they're still young, because it'll cause them to slip.
A common misconception about having locks in general, but like especially when people think about traditional locks, is that you have to do absolutely nothing to your hair ever. And that's not true. I still have to keep my hair moisturized because, you know, like of course your hair can get very dry. When your hair is dry, it can like break off at the end, you know, it can rub against like fabric and stuff like that and get lint caught in it. So what you want to make sure you do is I have a spray bottle, and I spray like mist my locks. I mean, I do it like every 2 to 3 days. And then some people like to put in like moisturizers, leave-in conditioners. There's, you know, some people say that you shouldn't do that at all because it causes product buildup. Some people say that you should. Just, you know, be careful with the type that you use because you don't want something that has too much product in it, too many things that can get caught in your hair. So I would just say, you know, get advice from other locticians, from other people who have locks, and try and figure out what's best for your hair. I personally use the Shelbe LOCS. It's like a daily moisturizer that I spritz in my hair with the water, and then I will seal in the moisture and the water with some oil, and it makes my locks very soft. You know, you still have to moisturize it. So I think that's probably the main thing for maintenance that you have to do, other than getting it retwisted, is keeping it moisturized so it can be healthy and still, you know, grow well.
So the last thing I would say is like the main difference is styles. So oftentimes, to be honest with SISTERLOCKS, you don't really see like extravagant styles. I feel like oftentimes in like traditional locks, they go to the salon, they'll have like these really nice styles that they come out with. Most of the times when you go for SISTERLOCKS, because it already is so much and takes so long to get them retightened, most people won't come out with a style and they'll just go home and do something. So I feel like a lot of times people treat SISTERLOCKS more like loose hair. So they'll put up in a ponytail, or they'll do like cornrows, or like a lot of people do braid outs very consistently. Whereas traditional locks, I feel like they have a lot of styles very specific to traditional locks.
So with traditional locks, yes, people are more, I guess, into the styles. When you go to the salon, a lot of locticians will include in your retwist price a basic style. And so a lot of times they do what they call barrel rows, which are kind of like braids, but it's a little bit different, but kind of same idea. You know, so I've had some where, you know, I've had barrel rows going up into half up, half down. I've had some going all the way down. The locticians really like to be creative in that way. But it is common, but I know a lot of influencers and people who have locks who do their locks, maintain their locks themselves, and they don't do styles, just because they don't want to. And also styling can put a lot of tension on your roots and cause thinning. So it is common, but it's not necessarily something that you have to get styling at the beginning, or you have to, you know, it just depends on what you want. But yeah, they have a lot of very cool styles. So.
Okay, cool. So that's the main differences between SISTERLOCKS and traditional locks, and that's all we have for y'all today.
Yeah, so let us know below, comment, and let us know any other questions you have that you want to know about our locks, the differences between them, or just any other advice that we can give you guys. And remember, subscribe and follow our Instagram page. We are at the number 2 Sisters Locked LOCD. And yeah, check out all of our content. Thank you so much for coming to see us, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.